When a question in the dark finally became a bridge, a father's path to friendship. Night draped across the house when I slipped quietly into my son's room. It was our routine, just a few minutes of quiet before sleep, a chance to check in, share a moment, say goodnight. Last night felt different. My heart beat in my ears as I closed the door softly behind me, careful to ease the hinge without a click. He lay beneath the duvet, the glow of his bedside lamp painting half his face golden, half in shadow. He stared at the ceiling. I sat on the bed's edge, the mattress dipping under my weight. He took a gentle breath and said, "Do you like me?" The question hit me like a pebble in calm water, rippling through me. I replied without hesitation, "Of course I like you." My voice felt too loud in the hush, too brash. His eyes remained on the ceiling for a moment before he quietly asked, "But if you weren't my dad, would you like me?" The question anchored me. My heart pounded as I swallowed. I began, trying to find words that felt honest and gentle. "I can't imagine not being your dad. But you're so smart and mature for your age, and you're so funny, even when you don't mean to be. Yeah, I think I'd like you." I softened my tone and asked, "Why do you ask?" He turned his face toward me, eyes reflecting the dim light. "I don't know," he whispered, voice muffled by the pillow. "I was just thinking. We could pretend to be friends." I blinked. "Pretend? Why pretend?" He shifted, knees pulling up under the blanket. "I don't know. You're my dad. It's just different." I swallowed again. The difference was the loneliness creeping into his tone, and I realized how much that stung. I took a breath and said, "Maybe it's different, but we can still be real friends." Silence lingered. Only the hum of the central heating reached us. "What kind of friend stuff can we do?" I asked as gently as I could. He shrugged. "I don't know. Just like hang out and talk and stuff." I nodded and said, "Okay, we can do that." His eyes flicked toward the door. He added quietly, "But without mom and younger brother's name." I nodded again. "Okay." My throat tightened as I asked, "Want to talk about anything right now?" He shook his head. "Any ideas on stuff we can do?" Another shake. I offered, "Are you friends with any kids at school?" He frowned. "I don't know. Can we not talk about that?" I pulled back slightly, not wanting to scare him. I whispered, "Of course. We don't have to." I stroked his hair, feeling the softness at his temple. "Thanks," he murmured, and that was all. I leaned over, kissed his forehead, and said goodnight. But I lay awake for hours afterward, wondering if beneath the sweetness there were deeper undercurrents, a need to belong, to not just be a son, but a person, a friend. I replayed the moment over and over in my head. At 12, I knew my own son was more self-sufficient than a 6-year-old, less likely to ask for closeness, but that question, "Would you like me if I wasn't your son?" That cut deeper than I expected. I thought of my wife's words from earlier, "Don't interrogate him, just hang out." And that's exactly what today became. I picked him up for errands, trying to lighten the mood. Quietly, I suggested, "Want to come with me?" He didn't hesitate, walked over and slipped on his shoes. We drove in the car, the world passing by, gray pavements, parked cars, green treetops. I kept it light, asking about his upcoming history test, his new book, the joke he told at dinner last night that made everyone laugh. He smiled. We did errands, post office, hardware shop to pick some paint swatches for his room, and a toy store window where he pointed out a remote-controlled dinosaur that roared when you pushed a button. We shared a laugh when I mimicked its growl. Then, ice cream, his favorite pistachio, mine vanilla. We sat on a bench outside the parlor, the sun breaking through clouds, warm on our backs. He talked, small things, like who sat next to him at lunch, a comment the teacher made. Each sentence was measured, but coming. I found myself relieved and proud. Despite the progress, I still wondered what else might help us connect deeper. I remembered reading suggestions, things like cooking together, doing crafts, going on hikes, or even starting a fabrication project. My mind buzzed with ideas as we finished our cones and walked to the car, leaving sticky bits of ice cream on his hand. I pulled a wet napkin from the glove box and said, "You know, we could do more days like today. Do you want to think about something you'd like to try?" He shrugged but didn't dismiss the idea. "Okay," he said, and that felt like an opening. Back at home, I watched him play quietly with his brother, building a train track. My heart throbbed. This moment with the two of them, a father and two sons, was exactly what I'd envisioned. But I realized I needed to plan more. I thought of suggestions that went beyond errands, like cooking something from scratch, building a model plane, visiting a museum, creating a backyard fort, or volunteering somewhere. But I didn't want to push too hard. So I sent him a quick text while he was upstairs. Sunday morning, pancakes and fort building? Just us? Later, he came down and said simply, "Sure." My chest swelled. Not because of the idea, but because of the trust in that response. It wasn't a yes because Dad asked, it felt like a yes because he wanted it too. In that, I saw not just a desire for friendship, but a willingness to rediscover closeness in his own terms. I looked at him standing there, 12, quiet, thoughtful, still mine, but beginning to stretch beyond boyhood. I felt the weight and tenderness of that, how time accelerates once they're not little, how opportunities slip by if you blink. And I resolved, I would show up. Not always with grand gestures, but with everyday presence. I would make pancakes, plan low-key adventures, baking cookies, wandering through a park, building something with wood or dirt. I'd watch him choose, step back if he needed space, lean in if he wanted me near. Because he was asking, quietly, bravely, for something I had never heard before, to be liked, not just loved. To be a friend, not just a son. And I liked that boy. I liked his curiosity, his seriousness, his quirks. I liked how his smile flickered when he found the right word. I liked how he paused to think before he spoke. I liked how he wanted those moments with me. I knew I couldn't fix every worry, but I could show up, and let time do the rest. That night, I read beside him again. I told him I liked the way he measured words, asked questions, and thought. He smiled at me, eyes closing. It wasn't his usual soft smile, but the kind born of trust. "Good night, Dad," he murmured. "Good night," I replied, and this time it felt complete. The first pale rays of morning filtered through the gauzy curtains and danced across the bedroom wall in soft horizontal lines. I was awake before sunrise, stirred from a dream of my son laughing, true laughter, unguarded and bright, and awake to savor the moment before it slipped away. In the kitchen, I filled the kettle while the coffee ground hissed in the grinder's burrs. The hinges on the cupboard squeaked a familiar greeting. I breathed in the roasted aroma of beans mingled with the faint sweetness of vanilla from a candle left burning overnight. It felt like holding a promise in my chest, that small leap of trust my son took with me was real. Later that morning, I found him in the back garden, squinting at a jumble of wood and nails, our unfinished birdhouse project. He held a small hammer like a prize, brow furrowed. I paused on the patio, the dew squishing under my slippers, inhaling the sharp tang of pine and mint. A breeze rustled the lavender, small chimes tinkling in response. He looked up, startled, and half smiled. I lifted the last piece of the birdhouse, light, rough-hewn, and handed it to him. His fingers brushed mine. "Do you want to finish it today?" I asked quietly. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he nodded, softly. Later, when the four sides were upright and the roof affixed, we stepped back and surveyed our work. He tilted his head toward the sky, where a lone sparrow fluttered by. "It's good," he said. It wasn't praise shouted, it was steady, earned. I nodded in return, chest warm with something beyond pride, relief, and the steady hum of connection. At lunchtime, I watched him set the table, awkwardly placing placemats and cutlery. It seemed routine, but I recognized its importance. He was stepping into a shared experience, not as a child but as a partner, a friend. I joined him, the clink of forks and plates filling the kitchen as we prepared sandwiches and poured iced tea. He hummed an absent tune and, when I asked about it, shrugged, "Just came into my head." I smiled at the thought of his mind wandering, comfortable enough to fill the silence with music. The afternoon sun climbed high, and we walked down to the park. He carried the birdhouse under one arm, I carried a thermos of lemonade. We walked in sync, barefoot on sodden grass, breathing in the smell of cut grass and playground wood chips. He pointed at a patch of daisies, nodding to them like they'd done something worth noticing. I knelt beside him and smelled one, sweet and clean. I asked quietly why he liked them. He never gave a proper answer, but his eyes told me he didn't need to. We sat on a bench overlooking the pond, watching goldfish swirl near the surface. He dipped a finger in the water, sending ripples outward. "Can fish be friends?" he asked. I chuckled. "I guess they can be," I said, "if they like being in your pond." He studied me for a long moment and then smiled, his real, easy smile. I reached over and patted his shoulder. "Nothing big. Just that." The whole afternoon felt gentle, like water against a stone, slow but shaping, molding. I thought of my wife's advice, don't press him, just show up. The world kept drifting by, but this moment, two shadows on the bench, father and son, felt like solid ground. We came home with the sky turning pink at the edges, the air cooling with the scent of impending rain. He trod through the grass, mud stamping tiny fossils on his trainers. I carried the birdhouse, noticing a small crack in its base. I bit back the urge to fix it myself. Instead, I said, "We'll glue that tomorrow." He glanced up, nodded, and we moved inside together. Later, back in his room, I tucked him in once more. He stared at the ceiling beams as I sat beside him. After a moment, he said, "Thanks for today." My heart caught. Was this a milestone? A concession? I whispered, "Thank you for coming with me." He turned his head so his pillow caught the glow of the lamp. "I like it when we do things together." The words tumbled out low, but they hit me deep. I took his hand in mine, something I'd never done without being prompted before. We held hands, lightly, like a page turning. "Me too," I breathed. "Let's keep doing things together." His eyelids fluttered shut, and I pressed a kiss to his forehead. The warmth beneath my lips felt like home. I stood to leave, hand on the doorframe, breathing deep the scent of laundry detergent and boy skin. "Good night," I said. "Good night, Dad," he replied. His voice was soft, but I heard it, a recognition, a beginning. I left his room slowly, footsteps echoing lightly across the hallway. When I reached the study, I paused to glance at a family photo, him and his younger brother laughing on the beach last summer. The smile we shared in that frozen image felt prophetic, like these small steps were guiding us home again. I sat down at my desk, heart slow and steady, and opened the drawer to look at the tools I'd bought for our next project: model planes, paints, wood glue, silent promises waiting. I closed the drawer gently, the click echoing with resolve. Our friendship was young, our conversations half-light and fresh. But it was real. And I was ready to meet him there, again, tomorrow. He awoke before dawn, the house humming in dim half-light. Beneath his closed eyelids, he carried the echo of our yesterday's laughter, small and honest, and he let himself lie still, just long enough to trace its shape. Downstairs, the kettle enlightened its coals in the early silence, hissed as water swelled at the edges. I joined him at the kitchen counter, where the smell of fresh ground coffee curled around us like a soft blanket. The air was thick with rising steam and quiet possibility, every inch of it ready for the next moment we'd share. Later, I found him in the garage, burrowed in the creative mess of scattered tools and half-built woodcut toys. A strip of sunlight sliced through the dusty window, picking out flecks of sawdust drifting like tiny fireflies. He held a hand-carved bird figurine, tracing its wing with a finger. When our eyes met, he didn't look away. I offered him a warm mug of cocoa, its aroma rich and chocolatey, and watched as he brought the rim to his lips. The heat cupped his palms, and I understood that these small exchanges were becoming threads weaving us closer. In the middle of the morning, we stepped into the garden where mint and lavender steamed in the rising sun, fragrant as an old memory. He pulled on gloves and helped me plant new seeds in the raised bed, carrot and radish, the soil soft and surprisingly cold against our fingers. I felt the heavy satisfaction of dirt under my fingernails. He paused, inhaling, deeply, as though tasting the turn of seasons. I said nothing, letting the soil speak for us, a quiet ritual, alliance born of shared effort. Lunch was barn-raising simplicity: butter-crisp toast, honey drizzled over soft cheese, and cold apple juice from the fridge. We ate together at the kitchen table, his chair pulled close enough to mine for our elbows to almost touch. The crunch and sweetness punctuated our silence. When he broke one of his slow, thoughtful smiles as he spoke of a class project, the warmth in the room swelled. In the afternoon, I took him to a creek we both loved as kids, the one edged by reeds and moss-coated stones. The air smelled of damp wood and fallen leaves, birds called softly overhead. He skipped stones, each plunk reverberating in the quiet. His movements were precise, concentrated, careful selection, measured throw. I smiled, watching the rings expand outward. He glanced back, lips twitching upward. We didn't speak, we didn't need to. Evening unfurled gently. Back home, rain tapped its fingertips against windows as I read aloud beside him in bed. My voice rose and fell with the story, the hum of pages turning blending with distant thunder. He shifted, inching closer, and resting his head against my shoulder. For a moment, the room felt suspended, two silhouettes illuminated by the weak lamp, two hearts synchronized in a steady stride. After lights out, I sat at his door, hand resting on the cool wood. I listened to his steady breathing and realized how these small rituals, planting seeds, sharing cocoa, skipping stones, had become our new vocabulary. Not forced, not flashy, just real moments, pieced together like the toys he was building or the birdhouse we finished last week. I left the door slightly ajar, trusting the quiet that had found us. The bird chime hung outside, stirred by the breeze, its tinkling soft as a promise. The page of tomorrow was blank, we had inked the Sunday's outline with gentle strokes of shared time. Tomorrow, maybe we'd build another birdhouse, cook pancakes, or walk barefoot in the grass. Maybe nothing. But in that hearth of half-light, where cocoa smelled warm and wood shavings lay on the floor, I understood that we were ongoing now. Not just father and son, but friends forging a bond with each small, sensory thread. The first light of dawn seeped through the bedroom curtains in pale streaks, brushing across the floorboards like whispered hope. I woke before my son, lying still just long enough to catch his slow, even breathing through the thin wall. The memory of his soft good morning yesterday echoed in my mind, tentative, curious, and I pressed my hand to my chest, feeling its steady rhythm. Downstairs, the house felt hushed, as though giving us space to breathe into a fresh beginning. I filled the kettle, hearing its gentle hum, the click of the switch, the promise of warmth. Sitting at the table, I cradled the mug, feeling its heat seep through porcelain into my palms, the rose-tinged vapor lifting memories of Saturday's birdhouse, and planting seeds of what today could hold. I found him in the garage by mid-morning, crouched amid shavings and half-finished boards. A shaft of sun through the small window backlit the fine sawdust drifting like ancient golden motes. His face was intent, the lines of concentration pulled tight as he carved a smooth curve into the wood with care. I cleared my throat and offered a hot chocolate I'd made, thick with cream and vanilla. He glanced up, struck by the warmth against his fingertips, and half smiled. I took that as invitation. We spoke little at first, the quiet of the workshop spoke loud enough. I passed him a piece of sandpaper. He accepted, trading a silent glance. Together, we refined edges, smoothing rough grain into gentle shapes. Each motion, each breath, wove a silent conversation between us, touch and texture shaping our unspoken bond. Lunch arrived with a burst of aromatic life, the snap of lettuce, the sweet tang of ripe tomatoes, the warm, yeasty scent of freshly baked rolls that I'd sliced the evening before. We sat on the back porch, the breeze cool, mint and lavender brushing past us in a scent that felt like home. We ate slowly, savoring each bite. I asked him what he thought of the birdhouse, and he shrugged, cheeks flushing as he tucked a curl behind his ear. "Good," he said, voice low and sure. I smiled and told him I thought so too. The breeze carried the distant laughter of his younger brother chasing a ball in the yard, and it felt blessing, context to our quiet alliance. We spent the afternoon wandering fields behind the house. The path was dusty, forgotten by the last rain, each step crackling beneath our sneakers. He carried the birdhouse atop his shoulder, cradled like a treasure. The grass brushed his ankles, scratchy yet soft in contrast. A lone skylark trilled above, not loud, but persistent, insistent, threading through the calm sky. We paused and listened. I asked him what he heard. He said, "Home." It felt like a revelation. I nodded without needing to ask what that meant. He reached out and touched the birdhouse. The wood was still rough in places, but firm. "It'll be done after glue dries," I said. He nodded, face softening. No more words were needed. By the time we returned, the sky had rippled with clouds, sun flirting through silver gray patches. We stepped inside to wash hands by the sink, water warm and smooth, turning pale suds on our skin. He studied his reflection, hair damp and curling. I asked if he wanted to keep working or take a break. He chose break. I fetched lemonade laced with honey and lime, tart and sweet, cool against the heat of the day. We sat on the porch again, knees nearly touching, legs dangling. The glass trembled in my hands with each heartbeat. He tucked his feet under his shirt, knees sticking. I asked if he liked these moments. He looked at me and nodded. His eyes said more than words could. This was what he'd asked for, just us, simple and real. Later, an unexpected rain came, soft then fierce, first a mist, then heavy drops thudding on the tin roof. The scent of wet grass and earth rose thick, heavy with nostalgia. We moved inside, carrying our drinks. The kettle boiled again, steam rolled like tiny ghosts. We sat in the living room, the birdhouse drying between us, and he leaned back, exhaling slowly. I fetched 2 blankets, plush, fleecy, warm, and draped one over his shoulders and one around me. The rain drummed a steady rhythm. He didn't speak, only listened. I let the pattern of the drops fill the silence, knowing that quiet could hold weight and meaning just as much as conversation. He turned to me and asked quietly, "Can we build a nest box next?" My heart stuttered. "Yes," I whispered. "We'll build it tomorrow." He nodded, eyes bright. Something shared in that promise, a small project, simple tools, but layered underneath with trust and time. That evening, after dinner, I tucked him into bed once more. His room smelled of warm laundry and faint peppermint, the faint remnant of the balm he rubbed before sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed. He didn't ask questions like before. Instead, he asked, "Dad, did you like today?" My breath caught. I loved it, I answered. Me too, he said, voice hushed. I leaned forward and kissed his forehead. He closed his eyes, breathing in my scent, and drifted to sleep. The lamp's glow softened, the room swelling with contented calm. I left the door cracked. In the hallway, footsteps carried me to the garage where the birdhouse rested. Light from the window painted facets across its surface. I ran fingers over its smooth edges, feeling the imprint of both our hands in its grain. I realized that each joint we tightened, each board we sanded, had transformed not just wood, but our relationship. The unspoken had become spoken through care and proximity. I walked back through the house, pausing to tilt my head toward the study where the tools for tomorrow waited: glue, timber, and promise. I breathed in deep, smelling the blend of wood dust and possibility. Tomorrow would come, cloud or sun, quiet or laughter, but tonight we had forged a connection as strong as the staples and screws in that birdhouse. In the soft half-light, guided by scent, sound, and touch, our friendship grew, steady, tangible, and real. That night, as the house unfolded into quiet, I slipped into my son's room one last time. He lay beneath the soft glow of his lamp, gentle rise and fall of breath in sync with mine. I perched on the edge of his bed, palm resting lightly on the duvet. "Did you like today?" I whispered. He offered a small, honest smile, no words, but everything understood. I breathed in the warmth of his presence and quietly said, "I'm proud of you. And I like you, just for being you." He shifted closer, and I tucked a strand of hair behind his ear. He squeezed my hand once. "Thanks, Dad," he murmured, and drifted toward sleep. The simple phrase was heavier than any speech, a small, steady sign that in his heart, I'd found a friend. I rose, gently closing his door, and paused on the landing. A soft breeze carried the chimes tinkling from the porch. In that note, I heard promise and trust, our shared quietly spoken vow sealed. We were father and son, yes, but increasingly, something more. I walked downstairs into the peaceful glow of our living room, heart steady, hopeful for tomorrow's pages yet to be written, together.